Hi Chamber Strings, I miss you. Today we're going to talk about practicing because you may find that you suddenly have a lot of time on your hands and you would like to practice and you want to know how to do it efficiently and in a way that makes you want to come back tomorrow and in a way that made this practice session really productive and make you feel super stoked to play your instrument. So there are a couple big factors in what makes a good practice session, and the first one is your setup. So that means like where are you in your house or apartment, what's around you, what's not around you, especially distractions. So we'll talk about that in a second. The second one is the planning and preparation for practice, so that you're not just like opening your book, starting at the beginning, and you have no really plan of attack. And then the third is the main body of your practice, so what exactly you're practicing, and then some tips and techniques how to accomplish your goals. And then the very last one is planning for next time. So what are you going to take from today and build on it next time, and set some goals for yourself. So let's start with setup. So here's the table that's right next to my stand. I have my violin and my bow on it. I also have a little notebook right here where I can record my plan for today and then for my next practice session. I have my metronome and tuner. I have my highlighting tape, which I use to mark passages that need attention. I have these little flags right behind the tape where I can mark pages in my book that need work or specific lines in my music. I have rosin so that I have no excuse to leave the room and rosin my bow and then wander away. And then I have a snack for if I need a snack, and also it's a practice tool that I'll show you a little bit later. Get a tuner out. And I like to tune with long bows, and I like to check my posture with my left hand and with my right hand, make sure that everything is straight here, that my elbow is a good height, that I'm considering already the different heights of my elbow for my different strings, and that my posture is nice and straight. From the very first second that you start practicing, you want to make sure that you're looking for that really good tone and that you're not kind of just doing it like, it's the first sound that you're making in your practice, so you want it to be, you know, beautiful and in tune and with nice tone. So just consider that even when you're tuning, to already start looking for that sound. The second part of your warm-up is going to be a scale or an etude, but it should be something that directly corresponds to what you're going to practice in like the main body of your practice. So in this case, I'm going to work on a Bach sonata, and it's in E major. So I'm going to choose to do a scale that's in E major, and I'm going to intentionally be very careful about my intonation. And on top of that, I'm also going to practice that scale in the same part of the bow that I am going to be working in my Bach. So again, I'm being really efficient with some of the choices that I'm making even during my warm-up. So here's the E major scale. And in your warm-up, you could also incorporate bow strokes like spiccato, or maybe during the bulk of your practice, you're working on tone quality or vibrato. So then your warm-up should have something to do with that as well. I try not to, with my private students, just assign etudes for no reason, like just as extra work. I try to make sure that they always support the concerto or sonata that my students are doing. I'm going to show you how to practice a very specific measure with the metronome. So in your notebook from last time, you should have written down the metronome marking of this particular excerpt. So, and it might be not the same as the rest of the piece. Like if you're really having trouble with this measure, maybe you can only play it at half the tempo of the rest of the piece. That's okay. So you grab your metronome, and so in my notebook I wrote last time, I can do this measure at 60 for the quarter note. So first I'm going to check my work from last time. Uh-oh, problem. It doesn't fit with the metronome. So that's okay, no judgment. Maybe last time that's where you ended up, but this time that is not where you ended up because it's a new day. So if your metronome has this tap tempo function, that's really helpful at times like these. So let's say you know it can go. Okay, so I'm going to reduce my speed a little bit. Okay. Good job, me. Okay, so now I can do quarter note equals 58. So then I want to get it faster though. I want to eventually get to quarter note equals 100. So I have a journey ahead of me and I won't get there today probably, but that's okay because I have tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So then I'm going to increase my speed by 2 clicks. Then I'm at 63 and I'm going to repeat. Great, I can still do it even at 63. Now you may get stuck at a metronome marking for a while, like maybe I get stuck on 76 for a couple days and I can't actually break to 80 until, you know, Friday. That's okay too because you're just collecting this data every single time you practice and eventually you will get it faster. It's going to happen. But by assigning a metronome marking to where you are right now, helps you stay motivated and helps you see that the end is not so far away. And then fast forward, you know, it's a week later and you're at 116 now. Good job, you. Hooray! And that's all just because you crept up slowly, slowly, slowly from 58, just 2 clicks at a time, multiple times during one session or over the span of a week. So let's say that you've practiced for a while, but you need to take a break because maybe you're getting frustrated or maybe your brain is just feeling like you're not making progress anymore. So breaks are great and you should definitely take them, but there's a couple parameters you can set in place to make sure that you do come back to practicing and that your break doesn't just turn into like dinner and then watching a movie and then just going to bed. So when I need a break, I try to keep my break for short, and second of all, still involving my violin in some way so that I'm not just breaking from sort of this practice world into something totally disconnected and then trying to come back into it. So during my break, I will listen to a recording of the piece I'm working on or just a piece that I like. The danger there is that you're grabbing your phone and that can lead to just not coming back to practicing. Another thing I like to do is improvise or just play something by ear, or probably the most productive thing you could do would be to go find that part in the music that you should not be practicing right now because you're already good at it, and just play that for a while and remember why you like this piece and why you like playing. And then you'll be ready to come back to that work again after taking a little bit of time away from it. Okay, so this is where your snack comes into play, if you have a snack. So I have Honey Nut Cheerios because that was the only snack that I had that could go in a little bowl for this demonstration. I hope that you have something better than that, like maybe fish crackers or like Oreos would be really great because you could stack them up. Anyway, so here's how you use these. You're gonna put 3 Oreos, Honey Nut Cheerios, on your stand on the right hand side. Now you're going to practice something that needs repetition. So let's say a shift. Okay, so for every time you get it right, you get to move 1 Cheerio over to the left-hand side of your stand. But if you get it wrong, then you have to move all the Cheerios back. So I'll show you what I mean. So let's say I'm practicing a shift from first position to third position that I'm having trouble with. So here's my first one. I say, wow, what a great shift, Maggie, fantastic. So then I take one of my Cheerios and I slide it over to the left-hand side. Then I try again. Wow, even better, this is working so well. So then I take another Cheerio and then I move it over to the left-hand side. So okay, here's the third one. Uh-oh, that that means all of the Cheerios have to go all the way back to the start. And you repeat that process. So the reason for this exercise is for consistency. So sometimes we practice something, we get it right one time, we're like, haha, I got it. But if you can't get it right 3 times in a row, it's probably just kind of a fluke that you got it right that one time. When we're performing, we want to know that we're gonna get it right. So we wanna have that built into our practice, that we have nailed this thing 3 times in a row, so that way when we go to perform it, we know that we have it in our back pocket. You can obviously make this more challenging by adding more Cheerios to the right hand side and seeing if you can get it 10 times in a row, 20 times in a row. That also helps you be more careful during your repetitions. So some people, when they're practicing repetitions, are like, okay, and we know that the problem with that is that you're reinforcing it wrong just as many times, if not more, that you're reinforcing it right. So that type of practicing is garbage, and it won't help you get any better. There's a quote from Yo-Yo Ma about practicing slowly, and I'm sure you've heard a million times that you're supposed to practice things slow, but what does that really mean? I mean, are you just supposed to like play through the whole piece half tempo? No. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to play slow enough that you're not gonna make a mistake at the thing that you're practicing. So let's say it's a shift again, the same shift. Here's where slow practice comes into play, even with the Cheerio exercise. Now I shifted so slow that I knew for sure I was gonna get it right. And then I would do it again. Now that is teaching your hand and your brain at the same time the exact distance between those 2 points, so that if you repeat that many times and you start going a little faster, now suddenly you're gonna be very, very accurate because you have been actually measuring that distance the whole time. You've been just going very, very slowly. So then let's talk about making a plan for next time. So at the end of your practice session, instead of just closing your book, like, okay, I did it, off I go, it's really important to make a plan for what you're gonna do next time. So that's when you take out your notebook, or I have students that use a little index card and they just paper clip it to their music, and that way every time they open their book, they have this little list of things that they said they were going to do. Or you can write in your margins, and that's when you write maybe a couple goals, like a reasonable metronome goal. That's when you can check in with the things that you were supposed to do today, and if you didn't accomplish them, you carry them over to the next time. Some people can be really specific and say like, okay, I'm gonna practice tomorrow at this time, and I'm gonna do these things. I'm not a big this time person, but I am I like having these lists of measures that I'm gonna work on and what I wanna accomplish in those measures. What I want you to work on this week as your assignment is to practice every single day and set it up just like we talked about in this lesson. So I want you to locate a spot in your house or apartment that's going to be your designated practice space, and make sure that you tidy it up and make sure that there's enough room for your instrument and your stand, and that you have a place to keep your music nearby, and that's going to be your practice space. So first identify that if you don't have that already. I know a lot of people are just all at home, so maybe your parents are working from home and they're like, I cannot have you practicing during these times of the day. So maybe talk to your family and figure out when would be a good time for you to have your practice session. And for now, you know, reserve like an hour of time, but we can talk about some tricks for that too. The second thing is to get some materials so that you can make a plan. So that could be a note on your phone, or a notebook, or some sticky notes to put on your music, or you could just write on a piece of paper and then just tuck it right in your music too. And that's gonna be your planning material. So where you can write your goals, they have to be very specific, like a metronome marking or a specific measure, or even as small as just a shift, like this one note to this next note, I'm gonna accomplish that. And I'm gonna be able to play it at this speed, and I'm gonna be able to get this number of repetitions correct in a row using my Cheerios. And then you're going to make sure that you follow your plan every single day. Now some days you might want to not practice. And those days you have to negotiate with yourself, because the rule is you must practice every day. So then where you have a little bit of freedom is how you do that and for how long. So if you need a little bit of a trick, you can limit how long you're allowed to practice. This is a trick that works really well if you haven't been practicing and you want to get back into it, but it's hard to start when you haven't done it for a while because you feel like it's gonna sound bad. It's just like if you haven't exercised for a while, you know that first day is gonna be rough. So here's a trick that I learned about. So you're going to set a timer for 10 minutes on that first day, and you are only allowed to practice for those 10 minutes. And when the timer goes off, you have to stop. You're not practicing anymore. You can like make your plan for next time and whatever, but you can't practice anymore. Then the next day, you're going to set the timer for 15 minutes, and then you're going to do the same thing. You have to stop when it goes off. And what this does is it basically makes it so that it's being taken away from you sooner than you want. So then you start wanting to have more time and to practice longer. So then you increase the time 5 minutes at a time until you get up to an hour or whatever your goal is. At your age, you should be practicing between 30 minutes and an hour, I would say. It kind of depends on how much music you have to work on. But anyway, so that's the process if you haven't been practicing, but you want to get back into it. It always works for me because I end up wanting to play longer. Additionally, tell yourself that you must practice every day, because the hardest part sometimes is just getting your instrument out of the case and starting. Once you begin, you'll likely want to practice and spend time playing your instrument because you like it. But just that barrier of you're like, oh, I have to get it out. Once you get over that, then you'll be fine and you'll practice. So that's going to be your goal this week. You're going to practice every single day, and you're going to write about it, and you're going to see just how much you improve. And by the end of the 7th day, it's going to be so easy to practice 8, 9, 10, 11 for the rest of the days because you've just formed a habit. Okay, I will see you next week.